Excellent.
Amazing. We got it here.
Life's so much better than dead.
Life is so much better than
Don't
dead.
have any personal experience, but that seems to be likely.
I've been there. It's not fun. It's quiet.
I feel like we need to add a question to the list now. I need more information.
I kind of have this. No, or do we need to start somewhere? Should I?
You can babble. We'll start the actual podcast in a second, but feel free to babble a bit before we get started.
I just, for me, I work constantly, but I love what I do. But there is that hamster on a wheel 24/7 that wears you out after a while, and there's no time for spine surgery. There's no time for vacation. But like, one of the reasons I love moderating a panel is because there's an hour on stage where nobody can bother me with an email or a text or a call. There's no demands I can be given. I can ignore you if you're reaching out to me. So I kind of, there's in the back of my head, short of being on a deserted island where I'm the only one that can make me crazy. Death is not scary to me. It represents a vacation from which no one can get me. So I've lived a good life. I'm happy.
What a way to start.
There you go.
Perspective, everybody.
I'm not suicidal. I'm just comfortable.
You're just content. That's actually a great way to be. I think
a very good way to be.
Living in constant fear of death isn't really a way to live.
I don't know if you thought I was kidding or not, but
no,
that photo I sent you just a little while ago, the staff meeting was with squirrels. I was feeding the squirrels in the park. That's where I like to sit and work sometimes.
That's amazing. And it's so, I mean, we'll talk about this a little bit more as we get into the actual meat of it, but I think like working for yourself is a really unique way of existing, but I don't want to take away from what we're going to talk about.
Okay.
So that being said, first of all, thank you, Monkey Man, for the sub. Appreciate it. And second of all, I'm going to take a quick pause and then I'm going to start reading. Zeki and Ben, do you have the thing pulled up and do you know what you need to say?
Yes.
I have it pulled up. I can't read, so that might be a bit of a problem, but
that's kind of problematic.
We'll wing it.
All right.
Illiterates are welcome here.
Hell yeah.
Okay. Hello.
We're
starting off so strong, guys. That's great.
This is going to be in the final cut. Just
yeah, for sure. Okay. Hello, and welcome to episode 2 of How the Fuck, the talk show turned podcast where we chat with folks who know what the fuck they're doing and ask them how the fuck they got there. I'm your host, Katie DeMatteis.
I'm also your host, Ben Martin Mooney.
And I'm your third-liest host, Zeki Alakaya.
Today, we are joined by Gary Miereanu, the president of GT Marmots /PR Inc., and a PR professional widely recognized as one of the foremost communications experts in the entertainment industry today. Gary specializes in the fanboy media, animation, film, and television productions, as well as sports promotions and events. Gary is also widely recognized as well as being the leading con whisperer in the country. Gary is the former head of publicity for Warner Brothers Animation and Walt Disney Television Animation, and currently operates a consulting firm whose client roster has ranged from ABC Television to Lucasfilm to Sony Pictures and more.
So, Gary, how the fuck?
It's a weird story and a long one. And as I talk to colleges a lot, and as I try and tell the youngins listening, you don't end where you start, pretty much ever. So I started I was working for the LA Daily News when I was in high school. I started as a newspaper reporter, particularly sports and some entertainment, but mostly sports writer, sports photographer, and rose fairly high in that realm. And then stumbled into publicity and did publicity mostly for sports for a little while, and then went into healthcare, believe it or not, publicity, and hung around there for about 10 years while doing, I honest to God, uh, I had a car accident and I needed some extra money, and I was freelancing only. And rather than stepping into traffic and taking my own life, I decided to take a job at a hospital that I had gotten another friend a job there, and he and one of my mentors was working there at the time, and I went to work there as the basically one of the staff writer of all things marketing, PR, advertising, you name it. And it was a primarily Sentinella Hospital, which at the time had the Curl and Job Orthopedic Clinic, which was the sports orthopedic doctors on the planet, all residing there, and everyone sent their athletes there. Wayne Gretzky, Magic Johnson, Nolan Ryan, you name it. They came from anywhere and everywhere, and the Lewitsky Dance Company, everybody came there, um, and I got so good at healthcare accidentally that I got recruited to go to St. John's Hospital in Santa Monica and spent 5 years there. And about 70% of that job turned out to be handling Hollywood, the Schwarzeneggers, the Hanks, the Spielbergs, the Jimmy Stewart, Glenn Ford, Elizabeth Taylor, Michael Jackson, and kind of learned healthcare PR there. And when I left that job, I went to a PR firm and brought St. John's with me, but went there kind of specifically. I got kind of recruited to be handle Siegfried and Roy, and if anyone knows who Siegfried and Roy is still,
Oh yeah.
and Fox Sports, and yeah, I went there for that, and then when I departed there, I ended up at Disney and spent damn near 10 years there, and then suddenly I was an opening back in sports, and I ended up being the head of communications for the Dodgers. And when that ended, I went over to Warner Brothers, and that's 17 years ago. And I was head of PR for Warner Brothers Animation for about a year and a half, almost 2 years, and then they let me go. But DC and Home Entertainment asked if I would please stay, and so I stuck around. And I've got other clients, and lots of great ones, lots of really fun ones, but Warner Brothers has been kind of my bread and butter for pretty much 17 years. So don't know how much longer that'll last, but it's a good time while it goes. So it's I have the odd distinction of being the only one to ever handle both the Disney classic characters, Mickey and the Gang, and the Warner Brothers classic characters, Bugs and such. So I treasure that little niche in my background. One piece of trivia.
What does PR for animation look like? I'm just because I know when I think of PR, I think about like PR for people and for like that kind of crisis management or outreach. What does it look like for Mickey Mouse?
Well, you'd be amazed. I mean, the crisis communications for Mickey, he goes on a 4-day drunk. You got a cover for him. Now, that's actually the beauty of animation. Rarely do you stumble into one of those scenarios, whereas as our dear friend Will Friedle will tell you, I always have bail money on me for my actors. So the not that I've ever bailed out Will, he just knows I have it. He's a good guy. He would never get arrested on my watch. But he PR for animation is much like PR for everything else. It's just you're representing the film or the TV series. There are, if it's a TV series, you've got episodic things going on, whether it's thematically or guest star or just some showcase part of that episode that has something noteworthy that the media will like. I come from a media background, obviously, so I essentially was 25 years I was doing reporting and editing, so I know what the other side, what the editorial side will want and how to frame it and like that. But again, episodic or a film, we do many films a year. I'm just you're taking care of the talent. You're making sure both the um, animation talent, your executive producer, your director, your writer, your and your on mic talent as well, and you publicize them as it goes. And one of the nice parts of today is when I started, we weren't allowed to tell you who was the voice of Mickey. We weren't we were discouraged from spreading the lines of that or even really publicizing who the writers were. And I kind of wanted to make it my mission to spread the word of who those people were, because they deserve the acclaim, they deserve the attention. And when you go to a con today, everybody knows who they are. You know, you can stroll up and there's Travis Willingham and Laura Bailey signing autographs. And 20 years ago, it wasn't a thing. Now I delight in like going to C2E2 and the couple sitting at dinner next to me at the next table, and I ask them, "What'd you come for?" And they're like, "Oh, we're Critters fans. We came for a Critical Role and to try and get in line for autographs from those." And I'll say, I always remember, I said, "Who would you really like to meet, though?" And the guy said, "Well, they're not here, but I want to really meet Tara Strong." And his wife said, "I really want to meet John DiMaggio." So that's just a treasure that they know who these wonderfully talented individuals are, and I revel in the chance to be part of them. So they're great. They're talented. They're smart, and they take care of each other.
That's awesome.
That's super cool.
It is fun.
At the beginning, you sort of alluded to this a bit, but clearly this is not a normal 9 to 5 job for you. What is the hardest part of working in such a fast-paced industry?
Ooh, the hardest part. It's 2 parts. It's
That's okay.
part 1 is working on the expectations of who you're reporting to and who you're supporting and promoting. The second half isn't that hard unless they're truly egomaniacal and expecting the world in a scenario where they don't qualify for the world. The first part is more of making sure that your execs and your marketing team and the people you're working with internally at a studio or a network understands the value of the product that you have. I once went to a studio. They brought me in. They had no experience on TV animation publicity. Really, they just had no clue, and they were just venturing into it. And they handed me a chunk of episodes that they were producing and said, "Watch these and tell us what we don't know." And literally, they didn't know anything. They didn't know who some of the actors were. They didn't understand the value of some of the writers they had working on it. One of the directors had already moved on to something huge, and that was going to be an easy hit with national media. Those kinds of things. And they really didn't know who some of the actors were. The producers on the show, they knew who they were because they understood talent and where they came from. But the people inside didn't really have that understanding, and it was really just an education and getting them to glom on, and they've been fine ever since. So, those are like your 2 hardest parts. The other, for me, it's again, I love what I do, and I have a genetic defect in that I don't need more than 3 or 4 hours of sleep a night. So, and I love what I do so much and who I represent that it just kind of eats up my every minute of every day. So I'm always thinking about it. I try and take a little time off, but I'm not a good vacationer. I don't sit well. I've threatened to go to the Maldives for years, and my wife will tell me I'll be bored to tears. And I'm like, no, I think I can handle the water and the relaxation, but she knows better. So yeah, it's a lot of it. I don't slow down. I got COVID right after Christmas and was confined to the chair you're seeing me sit in with the TV in front of me and my dog and my bearded dragon in the room with me. And basically 2 weeks of that, 4 days of COVID brain, and then 11 days of just watching a lot of hockey and football and binging shows. So thank you, Apple and Kaleidoscope and Netflix and everybody else that entertained me, Peacock and Paramount Plus, all those good joints, because they kept me busy. But I still was working. So I figure I will die, while moderating a panel at age 88. And I hope they just keep going on and just push me to the side, because that's what I'd want. So
we've got that recorded. So if it's ever called into question,
official.
we have it. You've got
They
witnesses.
know it now. Just kick me aside a little, let somebody else stand at the podium.
I love that. With I guess the 3 to 4 hours of sleep that you get per night in mind, what does a typical work week look like for you?
Oh my God.
Assuming that you have a typical work week, which might be in and of itself sort of a not a thing.
There really isn't a typical work week. I mean, this year, this for the last month alone, I mean, it was it's going to sound like I'm bragging, but it's not. It's we had WonderCon, so that was 4 days of 5 days really, not counting the several months of setup to get into it. But it was, on my feet, 20,000 steps a day, and there are days when I'm lucky to get 250. That was constant motion, and we came out of that. Usually I like to have at least a day or two after a con to kind of breathe, and instead I had less than 24 hours from the time the con ended until I had to get on a plane to go to New York because a movie I've been working on for a year and a half booked this guy named Oscar Isaac to record for it. So Oscar calls, I come. And got back from that. While we were there, we heard we weren't going to have any more recordings for a couple of weeks. But then, and this is a big, major theatrical film, and then one of the actors that we thought we weren't getting for a couple of weeks because he was vacationing at his home in Kauai, decided he wanted us to come to Kauai and work with him there. So I went to Kauai for 48 hours. It's just, there's no typical work week. I mean, there's a lot of, I have to be flexible because there could be something that comes up on the drop of a dime. And I'm going to, when I say go to work with people like that in the booth, part of it is talent relations, but the main part of it is field producing EPKs and behind the scene footage. So, and I don't know if you know what an EPK or not is, but it's an electronic press kit. So a lot of times when you're watching Entertainment Tonight or Access Hollywood, and you see an interview with talent, it's not always they shot it. It's sometimes the studio shot it and provided it. So that's what we do. So yeah, it's a lot of writing. It's a lot of photo and animated image editing. It's clip editing. It's interviewing talent. Today was we've got a movie called Justice League and Ruby, RWBY. It's a really popular anime show by Rooster Teeth, but it's Justice League and Ruby, Superheroes and Huntsmen Part 1. And we had the producer on the phone for 2 hours, so I had to stay and introduce him to the incoming calls from the media and monitor all the calls for 2 hours. And then I went over to the park and fed the squirrels while working on a press release. And I'm here now. And before that, I was working for bed for about 2 hours, just working off my phone, answering emails and connecting dots for everything. So yeah, no day is the same. No week is the same. There have been last year. There were times when it was like, "Hey, we need to go to Italy for 2 weeks." Okay, when? Thursday? Okay. It comes and you just gotta be ready to go, and I'm fine like that. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
And while we're like pulling the curtain back a little bit and like getting like a look at what your average week is like what's something that you kind of wish that more people understood about your industry, especially, you're saying like no day is ever even the same, let alone like a set week or something. So with all of that, like, um, what's like the misunderstood aspect of that where, you know,
No, this is good. This is good. Um, it's funny because Comic-Con, I'm thoroughly burnt out. I Comic-Con is a beast unto itself. It is the Super Bowl, and I usually get there on Monday and don't leave till the following Monday. And in between, it's 20 hours a day, nonstop. And on Saturday night, I'm usually fried to the point where I can barely talk, and my and I still have probably 6 hours of panels on Sunday, of which I'm more than likely moderating at least 3 or 4 hours of it. So I have to have some voice. So on Saturday night, I will go out under the understanding that wherever I go, I'm Hal, I'm an orthodontist. Don't say I work with DC. Don't say I work with Warner Brothers. Don't say I work with whoever. Don't mention my name. And then I, in turn, especially if I'm at a party like an FX party or something, I will talk to the PR people there that don't know me, and I love torturing them with questions like, "So, public relations, that's just like advertising, right?" It's absolutely not. But that's a common misconception that that's what public relations does. Or yeah, it's just a lot of not really grasping the depth of what we get into and go through uh, to um, to come out on the other end with what we have and what the public sees, and the amount of what's the common misconception that what we rolled out next Tuesday on Blu-ray, or a first run movie, or came to the theaters, didn't just finish being made last Thursday. um which is common. It's like, wow, you announced this today, so when does it finish being made? It's done. And it's been being worked on for the last 5 years. Yeah, in here are so many secrets, and you just have to hold on to them and remind your actors and your talent to do the same. And most of them are pretty good about that.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And I know that that's something that I think is just generally misconstrued about the entertainment industry. It's just like the amount of work that actually goes into building whatever it is, if it's a TV show or a movie or even a stream. Like there's just so much that
Truly.
happens before it even
Yeah.
sees the light of day in any capacity.
Yeah. Animation especially, but any piece of anything you see on the film has gone through such a collaborative process to get there, and so many incredible people have put in time to get it to that place. And I mean, I never leave a theater without watching all the credits, even if I don't know anybody in it, just because they deserve it. Those people, even if they've just got one line in somewhere, something, they put in the time to help bring to you the thing that you're enjoying. And a lot of times, most of them can't enjoy it as much as you might because they've been living with it for so long. Most of the movies I work on, I'll see at least 25 times before they're released. Because sometimes I'm going through, a 75, 80-minute film has 150,000 frames that I need to go through to find the right images to promote the film, things like that. So, and watching the clips and trying to make it, like a cliffhanger rather than just give you the whole scene. There's a lot of perspective on that, and I'm the secondary. I'm not the one that made it. I am the guy behind the guy behind the guy. I just did a throwaway line from things. What was that movie called? Great line. Anyway, the guy behind the guy behind the guy. Yeah, exactly. Things change. Check it out. Good movie. Don Amici, amongst others. Joe Mantegna. Excellent film.
Cool. So you are a self-proclaimed con whisperer. I am curious what that means.
So I'm going to say this because we were talking about that title just earlier today. I didn't proclaim myself that. It was dubbed on me by a studio who came at me from out of the blue to work on their Comic-Con appearance. And but basically what it means is most people have no clue what it takes to get your group to Comic-Con, put on a panel, the premiere, whatever. They don't realize those actors. Jensen Ackles always says, go to a convention? Sure. I love going to convention. I fly in from, Austin or Vancouver. I go to the hotel. They take me over in a car to the loading dock of the convention center. From there, I go up a freight elevator. I come out, I go on stage, I wave, I talk, I do the same thing going back. I never see the floor. I never see the goodies. I never get to shop. There are some actors that will dress themselves up, but most of the time, you start working on Comic-Con San Diego, which happens, basically the third week of July. You start working that basically November. There's so many pieces that need to go together and get it ready, and all the things that have to happen and have to go right for you to have a good panel. It can be everything from Julie Newmar needs a little scooter to move her around at both Hall H and at the the Bayfront Hilton where we're doing interviews. It's somebody has a particular diet that we weren't told about or weren't aware of that we need to accommodate for, so they're happy and put together. Arranging cars, arranging flights, arranging hotel, arranging scripting the panel, because no no successful panel is just done by winging it. You actually have to put some thought into who you're asking and what. And the objective of a panel is to tell a story that all comes together by the answers they're giving. So you need to build those questions accordingly, and it has to be truly thought out and arranged. And if you just go up there and wing it, and know that the moderator, nobody comes to see the moderator. That's a big misconception, particularly among execs who think you need to have a star who's just basically going to read questions. That it's better done by a journalist or a former journalist or somebody that's so close to the subject matter that they're great. We got there's some phenomenal people out there who do it and do it well. There are some people that are just hired guns that walk in and do it. So but there's a lot of pieces. I mean, those actors who are on stage when they're doing a panel, 9 times out of 10, they've just come off of 4 hours of interviews, walking from media activation to media activation, and then going through a press room or a red carpet, and they might not have had the chance to eat before they got on stage, and they're looking forward to doing it and getting off. And some of them don't want to be upstage. Not a lot, but there are a handful of behind the camera people who don't aren't really interested in talking. They just want to make the stuff. So it's a fight. It's a long dog fight, but it's good. And if the other part of my benefit is, this will be my 25th San Diego Comic-Con, or 25th year. We lost 2 years to the pandemic there, but there's pretty much, there in New York, the Javits Center, I don't think there's a underground tunnel or a back alley or any shortcut possible that I don't know about. Um, and if I don't, I know the exact people to contact. And I've always worked well with those groups. They're really wonderful people who are there for the fans. That is they don't get paid great. They work intolerable hours. They are away from their family a lot. A lot of them are volunteers, and they take a heck of a lot of crap while they're there, really focused on making it the best experience possible for the fans, and they are to be commended. And on my side, on the studio side, on the network side, there's a lot of people who put in a lot of work to make that 1 hour sing on stage. So yeah.
Wow. It's always good to hear like just how much it goes on behind, even for something as short as just a panel. Right? Like puts into perspective. Like if you think that's a lot, now consider what goes on for a movie, animated series,
Yeah.
etc.
Oh,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah, all of it. It really is kind of funny. I mean, yeah, I last week I got on a plane at 9 a.m. and flew to Kauai. I got off the plane. I immediately started working for, it was 5 hours. I went and had dinner. I came back. I worked for another couple hours. I went to sleep. I got up at 5:30. I had a meeting with New York, which is 6 hours ahead of that. I had to be in the car, and then I had Megan Fitzmartin, the writer of our Justice League Ruby, doing interviews for a couple hours. I I did an hour of it in their hotel room, got in the car, and drove the hour to where I had to meet this actor, and continued to run the interviews while I was in the car. Got there, spent 4 hours, 5 hours with the actor, got done with that, came on back, realized I had an hour and a half on my own. So I went and saw a couple of waterfalls, and then came on back and did some more meetings and some more writing that had to be done, and got some dinner and came back and uh, had to write a press release and had to write a proposal and one interview prep for another actor, and then uh, got up the next morning and had 3 back-to-back Zoom meetings before getting to a plane and coming back. And yeah, that's all of that, not all the peripheral, but I had to travel. I had to fly and drive basically 14 and a half, almost 15 hours to accommodate 4.5 hours of working with an actor in, Kauai.
Gary,
So
why are you here doing this interview with us right now? Go to
I can't, but that's it. I can't.
sleep.
And I canceled last Thursday because I had to go to
That's
Kauai.
That's true.
So yeah. So
Holy crap.
that's just kind of what, yeah, it's there's so much that goes, and that's just me. That's me. I'm this much of the overall puzzle of that film that's being made that is bigger than my hands can expand on the screen. Um, that's just me. Imagine how many other people are doing how many other things. They don't realize how often, people piss all over the Green Lantern live action movie, but if you knew what it took to make it, every time Martin Campbell wanted to change an effect, it took a room of apples, Macintosh, you know what I'm talking about, 100 hours of rendering time to make that work. And that's just the computers that work. It was the guys that had to program it in and calculate everything and do everything right. There's so much that goes into it's amazing what we do to entertain ourselves.
Seriously. Having just walked us through this series of events of like going to Kauai, all the stuff in between, then coming back, and like that being just a sort of like a small segment of what you do on a day-to-day basis, what advice would you have for somebody who's like, PR, this is what I want to do, and they're starting out,
Yeah, I do this all the time. That's the
Yeah.
fun one. Number one, learn to communicate. First things first, learn to write and write well. That's the single key component of what I do is being able to take a lot of information and put it into a smaller digestible package. Um, Two, uh, no job is too small. No, especially when you're on your way up, because you need to know everything you can. Um, Three is just read and watch everything you can. Yeah, you can live on the internet, but that's not going to teach you everything. Watch old movies. Get a grip on those. Find out, be able to reference things that other people will understand. Don't focus everything on TikTok. That's not going to make your career. Don't uh yeah, don't labor too much on if you're doing the more menial tasks. Come in and be excited about being part of the world and learning it. And even if it means you take an internship and you're Xeroxing and proofreading and just making sure your boss is making it to the lunch on time. It's kind of funny when I left the hospitals and went to the PR firm. I was just thinking about this last night. Our mayor, Dick Reardon, Richard Reardon just passed today. Los Angeles, former mayor, mayor during the '80s and or '80s and early '90s, and it was kind of fun because I got to work with him a lot back there when I was at the PR firm, and I got to know him and got to know him afterwards and all that. But he there was a point to that. The point was that I would get into the office an hour or 45 minutes before anybody else would. And because of that, yeah, I had work to do, but I had to answer the phones because nobody was there to answer them. And he would call every morning a half hour before the partner in the firm who he needed to talk to was, and we'd have a funny conversation every day. Every day. Good morning, Mr. Mayor. Gary, you can call me Dick. Yes, Mr. Mayor. And we go through that every day. But I got to know Dick Reardon, and because of that, there were other doors that opened up. So my point to anyone trying to get into the industry or up and coming is don't hold yourself back from getting to know everyone you can. I mean, I'm an extrovert most of the time. There's a lot of time I like to be an introvert too, but the extrovert overtakes, and you can't be an introvert in this business. You've got to be a people person who can accommodate those people and understand them and relate to them on a people level. I With the exception of one actor, I think I've never opened a conversation or even spoke to them on the 15th time I talked to them by bleeding out over something they made. Mostly we talk about our pets, what we had for breakfast. Adam West was a dear friend for the last 6-7 years of his life. And this was my be all end all when I was 5 years old. There was nothing greater than Adam West, and getting to know him and Burt Ward is truly one of the great circle of life moments for me. But Adam and I never talked the Batman series. We talked old cars and radio and jazz and things like that, and we laugh about old classic songs from the 40s. We as most actors, well, all actors are still people. They are, and sometimes some people treat them a little too they put them on too high a pedestal, and some get a little big for their britches and forget where they came from. But most are truly wonderful individuals who they got to take out the trash when their wife tells them to, and they one of my favorite actors yesterday, He's been in. Oh, good. The Gardners are here. Um, he he's been in Vancouver and the Midwest and Europe and London over the last like 4 weeks, and I was filming in Portland, and he texted me yesterday. He was laughing about a picture I put up about from Kauai, and he said, "What a life!" And I said, "I know." And I said, "Where are you off to now?" And he said, "I'm going to coach 8th grade girls volleyball." It's just they're people, and you can. Yes, we should love them for the great work they do, but respect them also for allowing them to have a little privacy, and and not knock them for not wanting to be there for the public every minute of the day.
So I kind of get the sense then with being able to communicate. That was like the first thing you said, and something you want to have in starting in PR. And I guess digging a little bit deeper and following up on that, what would some of the other really important traits be if you had to kind of think outside the box to attribute to like what has, driven some of your success, and or even some of the things you learned along the way with mistakes, you know what I mean? Like sometimes like we're not all given all of the necessary traits to get a job done, but we learn.
Yeah,
So
no, truly, you
yeah.
don't usually learn. There's an old saying: you don't learn from a win. You learn more from losses.
Mhm.
I I've got a couple of things going for me that are just ridiculously stupid. Um, Aside from, I mean, I learned to write at an early age, and I turned out to be pretty good at it. So that's a benefit for me. Working on newspapers and magazines and broadcast for as long as I did, it gives me a keen perspective of their side and what they need to do their job, so that I can anticipate that when I'm either pitching an idea to somebody to cover, or helping facilitate their coverage, whether it's providing the right footage, or making sure they have the right still images, or just having all the correct information. And that's number one. Number two, I may not have studied as hard as I could. Geometry is beyond me. Algebra is that, but math is important in my job still. But beyond that, I grew up watching TV and going to the movies about as regularly as any individual on the planet, and I have the really Rain Man esque capacity to retain everything I've seen and quote it back. So those things stick in there, and I can usually pull them out and use them in a reference, or in understanding the context of where we're working, um, particularly on films, and knowing how they'll play and where they'll go, and what genre they fit into, and how better to position them. The other thing is, even the old, so in my day, there was no internet, there was no email. We didn't even have faxes at one time. If you watch Almost Famous, it's that great Ben Funk Torres line of, "It's a mojo. You can transmit a page in 15 minutes. Cool." It's just, yeah. I mean, I grew up in a day where you filed your story. There was a time when you went to a phone and called in your story off of your notes. You dictated, and then we graduated to having what we called a trasher unit. There were these laptops that you could only see 3 lines, or if you spent the extra $80, 4 lines of your copy as you were writing it. And imagine writing a 20-inch story with just that much you could see immediately after a football game. And then you put a phone into these acoustic couplers that connected to your computer, and you pushed a button, and after about 15 minutes your story transmitted to the newspaper. And it was just, so all of those things, we didn't have the the luxuries of that make everything move so fast today. You know, I remember when pagers came in, and wow, we have pagers. They can get a hold of me now. I have to carry change in my pocket to get to a payphone. But you all the things that we have today, the internet, social media, all of that is just so immediate. So you have to, once again, you have to be flexible. You have to see opportunities and be ready to seize them. If at all possible, you need to be able to prepare materials that you can launch out there on the drop of a dime, especially with the immediacy of social media. And then there are some tricks from 40 years ago that can be modified to work in today's environment. And it's just putting a little twist on what you did back then to make it easier to promote today. So yeah, and just being, you gotta be flexible. You can't have a conniption fit after everything goes wrong or anything goes wrong. You got to be able to realize that if you were going this way and something got in your way, you got to be able to turn and pivot and come back and do all of that. So flexibility, patience, and yeah. And for the younger set, just knowing that there is something called pay your dues, and you have to learn to do right. You're going to not get paid well for a little while, but it's going to be your education. So yeah, go out, get an internship, do things like that. Be ready to volunteer. That's never bad either.
Yeah. That's I mean, I think that's great advice. I'm curious. So I think for better or for worse, the world that we live in today has a very interesting relationship with celebrity. And I think you kind of talked about that a little bit earlier. It's something that I can't really wrap my head around, but these buildings of these parasocial relationships are incredibly prevalent. I think anyone who has any degree of notoriety or fame is going to experience some of that. I'm curious, what have been the most challenging parts of working with bigger name celebrities, both on the side of having to sort of manage the relationship that people have with celebrities, but then also having to manage celebrities themselves who, in some cases may have different ways of interacting with the world because of the level of fame that they have achieved?
That is the most tactful way I've ever heard.
That was incredible. Michael Uslan, I always talk at Michael Uslan's University of Indiana class, and he says it. How do you handle all those egos? So
I was trying to be a little bit more tempered in my verbiage, but yes, that's essentially what I'm asking.
You know what? And first and foremost, I do love actors. I'm not a star, but I do. They're interesting people, and they have this. Everybody, not just actors, has the same insecurities that were instilled in them when they were in middle school. But actors sometimes have more, and they compensate for it. And sometimes it's not the right way to compensate, but they the first hurdle is usually working with their reps, and that can be trying, because especially if you know the actor, of which I know a lot of them, and you reach out to their agent or their manager or their lawyer or even their publicist. And I love most publicists, but there can be, they're not always motivated to bring you to where they where you need the actor to be, and that becomes the first hurdle. It's the actors that have not been told the truth or have been allowed to run amok that are the most difficult. I worked with an actress a number of years ago who I was kind of excited to work with her because she'd done a couple of things and we had some mutual friends, and I thought it was going to go swimmingly. And when I got to where we were about to do a big interview, she was sitting on the couch opposite the talent and was um, chomping on her gum, and I had not met her agent yet, and I kind of blew right by her, not her agent, her manager. I blew right by her manager and went right up to her and said, put out my hand and leaned over to her so no one could see and said, "Give me the gum." No gum in the middle of an interview. And she looked at me, and she was a young actress, and she said, "Put it in your hand." I said, "Where else do you want to put it?" And she put it there, and I walked back and I gave her a nod and said, "Excellent." And went back and I stood next to her manager, and her manager said, "You can't talk to my client like that." And I said, "Well, somebody has to, and you didn't. So you want the gum or you want me to throw it out?" And it set a baseline for the actress and I that worked quite well for the rest of the day. Um, the manager and I found a middle way point that she came to understand. There's just, you got to control the things that don't look right, the things that will make someone. I'm never there to make an actor look bad. That's not my job. I'm going to make them look as good as possible. If they've burned me, if they've hurt me, if they've been bad to me, I still have that job to bring them to full shining glory throughout. This doesn't happen often. And quite frankly, I mean, I don't think I've ever had something bad with anyone in the voice community. They are the greatest people you could ever hope to work with. But there have been a couple of on-camera actors that were uh, not good. and the way I deal with that is I put on the shiniest of sorry of shiniest face and put them in the best light possible, and then I probably don't watch anything they're in for the rest of eternity. So yeah. I'm
I
laughing.
love that answer.
An actress. See, now this is what I'm talking about. There's an actress friend of mine. She's gone through a couple of things at times, but we're close. And I was laughing because she sent me a picture of her young son who just put on his first Dodger cap, and it's very cute. So,
that's so
yeah.
sweet.
So,
It's adorable.
yeah. But they're you know what? Actors are really good people, and they're out there just they're working for a living. And with a writer's strike, they're about to go into a bunch of questions of what's next, and that's all very difficult for everybody. So, I enjoy it.
I think honestly, something that's not necessarily completely related, but I don't think that people realize how much the writer's strike affects every aspect of the entertainment industry.
Which is funny because that's exactly why the writers want to get paid better, because not only does the public not fully understand it, but the execs tend not to understand it either. They seem to, and especially with AI coming around and the proliferation of reality TV, which is still scripted and still is irreality. The writers are essential to making what you want and making it good, and that's where it all starts. It all starts on the page. I've been loving the last 3 or 4 interviews I've done. The actors, phenomenal Academy Award or Emmy Award winning actors, have all said the same thing when I've brought up, where did you find that approach to the character? they've said, you know what, was on the page. And then they mention the writer's name who wrote the script. And they say, I could come in all day and guess who this character is, but reading everything in that script made it so easy for me to bring it to fruition. So the writers are phenomenal, and writers are the best interviews because they know everything and they're ready to. They've been stuck in their lonely writer's room, typing away for years, and somebody finally lets them out and they're ready to babble. So, and I enjoy that. It's really fun to listen to them do interviews because they're smart people and they know words.
We like some good words on a podcast.
Words are my friend.
I'm going to take a slight detour from sort of talking about like the day to day or some of the things that you have to deal with, and sort of back things out a little bit and ask about what it was like taking the leap from like working for these big corporations and then stepping into your own firm and like that creation process. Like what, I guess maybe sort of two questions. Like one is what led to that, and then two, what was that experience like?
I've had a couple of times during my career where I didn't have one company. It became obvious to me that when I was a sports writer, I worked at one newspaper for a little while. I worked for another newspaper for a little while. I worked from a couple of major magazines, but it's not that it wasn't consistent work, but it wasn't enough to sustain. So you had to freelance and work for a large number of publications to sustain yourself and keep food on the table and roof over your head. When I was done with Warner Brothers, well, really between the PR firm and Disney, I freelanced for about 6 months until Disney begged me to come inside. When I was leaving Warner Brothers the first time, it was really kind of I had another job lined up, but it wasn't going to start for a couple of months. And Warner Brothers was pretty happy bringing me on and having me just consult for them rather than be full time. And while I was doing that, another opportunity opened up for a freelance gig, and then another, and then another. And as soon as people heard I was really out there and available, my dance card filled quickly. And just completely coincidentally, that job I had lined up and had signed a contract, what was about to happen with it kept getting pushed back. So my start date got pushed about 4 times, and I kept getting paid just the same, which was a wonderful thing to get paid for doing nothing and not driving an hour and a half in traffic each direction. But it kind of gave me a chance to establish myself as a freelancer, and as my accountant explained to me, that it was time to start your own business, incorporate and do it. So I like to dress comfortably. I like to do things at my own pace. Frequently, I'm not a great writer unless I'm left alone in a white noise scenario, or it's 10 o'clock or later PM, and I have a large area to myself and I can focus. So those don't always work in tandem with a 9-to-5 job. And I wouldn't know a 9-to-5 job if you slap me upside the head with it. So it gives me the chance to just do what I do at my own pace with my own hours. I can expand them as much as I like, and I enjoy that. Yeah, Tommy Bahama short shorts and Allbirds, and I'm a happy guy. And Warner Brothers has never had a problem with that. Disney, I used to wear jeans, sneakers, and a ball jersey of some sort every day. And the one time I had gone to a funeral and came back wearing a suit, I got calls from 2 executives into their offices to find out where I was interviewing. So, yeah. So hopefully, if I ever have to go in-house again somewhere, they will be accepting of my attire, or else I'll have to go find slacks and more shirts. But yeah, comfort is key here. I'm too old to fit into some weird key hole. Did that
So
answer?
yeah, no, I think so.
Yeah, I'd say so. Absolutely. Yeah.
So we kind of danced around this a little bit before in talking about, the changes in technology and, even like reworking and retweaking different aspects of the business from 40 years ago. But like, I guess what I want to kind of know, like following up on that, would be how has that kind of changed from then and now, especially with the lens of going into having your own firm and going to business for yourself kind of thing. And then how much of that have you kind of observed just like industry changes going wide? Or, we talked about the instantaneous nature of the cell phone and how much has like the technology kind of changed things as well?
Well, technology and social media have changed everything. In that it's sped everything up, and you have to be prepared at every moment to deal with a crisis or deal. You on for a number of summers. I used to work as a paparazzi, a good guy paparazzi. Standing outside the Roxy yelling, "Hey, Ringo, over here!" Snap, snap, snap. Not on a beach with a 1,000 millimeter lens trying to get somebody half in their bikini. Um, so but because of what I did, I got to know the tabloid side and got to know the editors there, and was able to work with them when I went into the PR side. Now the tabloid side is next to nil, aside from your TMZs and everybody who has one of these in a website or a blog. They're everywhere, and there's no, there's 40 people standing outside the theater when Gary Sinise comes out from watching a movie with his family, and they're screaming stuff at him, trying to get him to react. That's not cool. It's just there's always that moment that could go wrong that you really have to anticipate and be ready for. Again, bail money in your pocket. But the I think it's just a matter of, well, one, you got to be on alert all the time, and not sleeping helps, because I can check my scan Twitter, check the key websites, and see my email and sports scores at any moment of the night, and I do. So yeah, that's really crucial, is to be on top of it all the time, and it's not like you get to close the door on things very often. There's nothing ends, and it's just a vicious, again, hamster on the wheel, only the wheel never stops. So you got to be prepared. You got to be awake. You have to be able to, a movie leaks, and you've got to not. I mean, it's not only on you. There are other people involved in your promotion, but somebody's got to be watching out everywhere to see if that leak is happening, and immediately alerting, say, your anti-piracy team at your studio, or making sure everybody knows, including your producer, this is why you're sending this out there. Please don't comment on it. It's prepping your talent in a way that they know what they should and shouldn't say. And I've built enough relationships in this business that most of my producers and writers and directors know better than to reply to something on the internet without double checking with me first, because sometimes it might be something we were going to purposely plant that, yes, but 98% of the time I'm going to have made sure that everybody involved with that plant is aware of it ahead of time. It was funny. There was a studio exec who thought it would be a neat idea to leak information by like leaving a thumb drive in a men's room with maybe an image or something from a movie, and we had to explain why that was a bad idea. Yeah, it's you have people internally that sometimes subscribe to the "that's news to me" scenario, where they think they should get coverage for something that really isn't more news than it's just news to them. It won't be news to the world. On the flip side, there's people on the inside that don't understand the value of every asset available in a movie and why you should be able to leave that in the hands of your marketing and publicity team to parcel out those nuggets as they go. When I got on Twitter, I didn't want to get on Twitter. I didn't want to get on Facebook. And I was forced onto Facebook because there were 4 young actors in a movie I was about to go work on. And I had the only information I could get on any of them was on Facebook. And years later, Twitter came around, and I was like, no way am I going to be on that 24/7. This will make me insane. And Nathan Fillion, the great Nathan Fillion, took my phone and said, "You're getting on Twitter." And I said, no. Nobody gives a crap what I say. They want to hear from you. So you run Twitter, I will watch. And he said, no. You have tidbits. You have tidbits, and they love tidbits. And he was right. And I became the junkie for Twitter. You will never see me do a TikTok video unless my daughters, sneakily film me. And my Instagram is devoted to my dog and my bearded dragon and other non-work things, but Twitter is a lot of work and a lot of play. So
We've all
yeah.
fallen victim to the Twitter machine. It's okay.
Oh yeah.
I think we got like dependent on Twitter, and then the change
Well,
happened.
Yeah.
As I tweeted a little while ago, the SpaceX thing today was kind of like a metaphor for what's going on with Twitter. So
For real, man.
yeah, I still love Twitter. I still love following everyone and seeing where things are going and all that, the silly games that people put up and stuff to do. And I don't play Wordle. But I was a Facebook farmer. So
Too good to pass up on.
I know my sheeps are starving somewhere. So
Oh, no.
I turned so many people into vampires at some point.
Oh, I remember that.
Oh
Yeah.
God. Yeah, all of our
Poke and
Neopets are
stuff.
definitely dead somewhere.
the Neopet.
Extremely dead.
All right. So a couple more questions. Gary, I think you are pretty well known for your crazy anecdotes and stories about the industry.
Those tidbits.
What is the most insane thing that's happened to you on the job? Which I
Okay,
guess is
so-
all the time because you're never not on the job. So
There was this
Just
comic
generally-
writer named J.M. DeMatteis, and he
Okay.
No, just kidding.
I've heard about that guy. He's trouble.
The craziest. Oh my God. Okay. It's not really the craziest, but it's like this. Anytime somebody gives me enough power to do something absolutely ridiculous, it amuses the crap out of me. So Oh, I probably shouldn't tell this story. Okay,
Well, now you have to tell it.
now I have to tell it, but I'm not gonna say specifically. But I got hired by a another studio, actually the PR firm working for another studio, to work on their presentation at a major convention. And they were promoting a movie, and their client was the car, um, the car that's featured in the film. And in the film, the car gets not destroyed, but pretty beaten up, including shot full of bullet holes and scratches and cracked windshield, all this stuff. It was nuts. And so they really wanted to, they were going to have a big party at Comic Con, and it was going to be a pretty spectacular event with all the talent and a really cool band and all that. And so we were going to plan the whole day of what was happening, and then the party was the culmination of everything. And they wanted to, as you walked into the party, the car would be right there, and they wanted to promote it as the car from the movie, and you would get to pose with the car, and it would be instantly recognizable that you were with the car from the movie. So they showed me pictures of the car they were going to bring, only it was a pristine new version of the car. And I said, no. And this is a very high end automobile company. And they said, um, Katie trying to get me to blab.
I just want to know what car it is. That's all.
I'll tell you later.
Okay.
So I said, no, the car has to look like what it looked like at the end of the movie. You gotta have that car, because then people go, oh, Christ, that's the move. That's a car from the movie. And so they fought me on it, and then they finally said, okay. And the studio and the PR firm agreed, and the car manufacturer said, all right, we'll do that. About a week and a half later, they called and said, come down, we'll show you the car, and we're going to have the car in a compound. I said, great. Approaching it, it looked very cool. Bullet holes all over it, big scratch marks right where they were, and a dented windshield, the whole thing. And then as I got close, they were stickers of bullet holes, and everything was um uh how you say it, when you put on your makeup, fake. It wasn't, there wasn't a dent in the damn car. It was the same car, only they had these things stuck all over it. And I said, that's not going to work, especially when people get up close. They're going to know what silliness of movie magic is, that this is not the car. And they were really upset. And I was like, you really need to, you got to do it to the car. And the studio agreed, and the car firm agreed, and the car company was still kind of grousing about it. They went away, and 2 weeks later they said, come and see the car. And they had shot freaking bullet holes and done all the damage to the car that was done in the movie. And that's the car that went on display. And it teases me to death that I was able to tell this like, I'll never be able to afford one of their cars, but that car company shot their car full of bullet holes because I told them to.
That's a pretty big power move. That's excellent.
Every once in a while you say something. I felt like Rocket Raccoon. I'm gonna need that guy's eye. Didn't really need it.
But you know, we watched that the other night.
That guy's leg. It's going to be essential to the plan. It was that kind of stupid. It starts making you question what else you can pull off. So,
amazing.
Yeah. Or every once in a while, there's something we get to come up with. One of my favorites was, okay, my absolute favorite is, we were presented at Warner Brothers with what can we do at Comic-Con to celebrate the final movie in the Christopher Nolan Batman series. And we were told point blank, we're not going to have any of the acting talent. You know, how can we promote it? And so I suggested we bring all of the Batmobiles to Comic-Con and display them out on the lawn between the Bayfront Hilton and the Hall H. And we got to do that. And one of my stipulations was, hey, I came up with the idea. How about I get to ride in any one of them that I want when we're loading them in. And I got to ride in the Adam West Batmobile around San Diego for about 15, 20 minutes. And I was like a 4-year-old at Christmas morning. It was so much fun just driving around in it. Not me driving, Tony drove it, but driving it and watching people like walk out of Starbucks and drop their coffee, looking at it going by, and people clapping on the street. And it was just wonderful. So that was fun. And then we followed that up by bringing all of those cars to like 8 different football stadiums, NFL and collegiate football stadiums, the Alabama LSU game, and in LSU, and Monday Night Football in New Orleans, and Giant Stadium, you name it. It was so much fun to do and to run around. The downside of it was we came up with this great idea and we were all excited. And me and one of my coworkers were going to be traveling with the cars every weekend and doing all that. Well, that was all good and fun. We're going to football stadiums every weekend and seeing football games and promoting the cars and promoting and there was a Batmobile documentary on the Blu-ray. So we had a panel with that, with some phenomenal people, Michael Uslan and such, and Andy Smith and folks like that, who some of the designers of Tim Flannery, the designers of some of the cars from over the years. And we did a panel on that at Comic-Con, but it was so much fun. But what we didn't anticipate was, we're going to spend 8 weekends going to football stadiums around the nation. But that meant we had 4 days each week to do 5 days of work and then get on a plane and go off and work for the entire weekend. So by Thanksgiving, we were wrung out and just didn't want to, do anything other than stare at the turkey.
Seems very reasonable. A little recovery time goes a long way after that.
Yeah.
That's so cool, though.
We needed it. Yeah, it was awesome. And just to watch fans of all ages react to those cars. Everybody has a different reaction or a different car they react to. It's just such a piece of classic Americana that they can't help themselves, and it's fun to watch them revel in it. Even the biggest celebrities were like, Comic-Con, I get some major celebs come up and go, "Hey, do you think we could go sit in the Batmobile?" Yeah, let's go.
I mean, who doesn't want to sit in the Batmobile?
Oh, that's the greatest.
I mean,
I will admit, Jeff Dunham owns one of the 3 Michael Keaton Batmobiles, and he brought it on down, and I jumped into it with him to drive it around the block, and we went 30 yards, and I'm claustrophobic, and it was like when that thing shut, it was like a coffin, and I was having a panic attack inside. About 30 yards down the block, I was like, "Jeff, pull over. I got to get out." It's like, you said a bad word. And I said, I can't handle it. I'm claustrophobic. It's too much. He, to this day, doesn't let me forget that. So.
Oh my gosh.
Honestly, sounds very relatable. I don't do well in small spaces either. Based on Katie's reaction, I sense a similar response there.
I cannot do small spaces. If
Oh.
I am in an elevator and it stops moving, I immediately have a panic attack and blackout. So, yeah, not my thing.
Katie, how many elevators do you get stuck in?
I've gotten stuck in multiple elevators. One, they had to actually bring the maintenance people in, and I had to crawl out through like a half open space.
No wonder you have this problem. Like, that's
I had
so
the problem
not surprising.
before. I had the problem before this happened.
The single, oh man, it'll take me all day to find it in my phone. But we were at New York Comic-Con. I got on the freight elevator. It's kind of a famous story, especially around NYCC. I got on the freight elevator with my escort, and we, with my right hand, we got on alone just before the doors closed. Brian Bendis and his entire team of the show Powers came running up and said, "Hold the elevator," and they got on. And the thing, I think, was supposed to hold 20 people, and they put 25 on there, and the elevator went And bam, went back down, and the elevator is open. They said, "Don't worry, it'll work." He pushed it again, and we started to go again, and we went up, and then it just stopped, and we were stuck there for 25 minutes, jammed in like sardines. And one of the actresses started to have a panic attack, and I had Eddie Izzard just to my left, and Noah Taylor to my right, and Bendis over in the corner, and we tried to make jokes and make light of it. And I took an elevator selfie that ran around the world of all of us jammed in there tight, doing our thing. And when we came out, Eddie Izzard complimented me on my comedic talents, and we couldn't believe that we held it together. But I think she's still in therapy. So, yeah, it was a funny, not funny, because I had places to go and things to do, and it was freaky.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Jesus,
Oh, that's
yeah.
terrifying.
It was something.
Well, we are on to our last question.
Oh,
So,
make it a good
it's the
one.
most important one.
Well, we do have chat questions
That's
if we have
true.
time, but we
So-
can
Oh,
cross that
okay,
bridge
sure.
when we get
I'm
there.
good.
Yeah.
I got dinner in half an hour.
All right, perfect. So, what is the airspeed of an unladen swallow?
I'm not crossing that bridge.
All right, fair enough.
I'm never meeting the rabbit.
I had a hunch. But more realistically, is there anything that you would like to plug, or anyone, like any projects that you want to, that you're working on that you're allowed to talk about, that you'd like to talk about, anything like that?
Yeah, we got a swell movie coming out next week called Justice League and Ruby, Superheroes and the Huntsman Part 1. And it's, if you don't like anime, but you like Justice League, this is a perfect movie to try and slide in. And if you like Ruby, you're going to love this film. And if you like Chandler Riggs or Natalie Allen Lind or Nat Wolf, you're going to appreciate it even more. And I can't say enough about the Ruby team and the Rooster Teeth gang. They're really fun, and I love the Rublets, as I call them, the four gals that do the voices of Ruby. Could not be more wonderful to work with, and they've been at it for a long time, and they deserve everything they get. So, yeah, that comes out next Tuesday, April 25th. Other than that, I don't think there's anything I can really talk about right this second. So I'll give you one. I also head up publicity for Lex and Otis Studios, a phenomenal studio run by a guy named Jay Oliva, and who is an unbelievable talent unto himself. And if you ever want to see a really good show that won't take you long to watch, there's a Netflix, Dig Around for Trese, Trese. It's as if a 24-year-old Filipino girl was Constantine. She explores all the she delves through all the mythology and folklore of the Philippines and Manila, and really it's very cool, and did not get the debut it deserved because of pandemic and all that. So it's a blast, and a phenomenal cast on top of that. And aside from that, pay attention to your voice actors, because they're wonderful people. Hire them for cameos. Go see them in panels. Get their autographs. You'll never be disappointed.
And if folks wanted to find you on the internet, how would they do that?
At super with a capital S, PR, capital PR, guy, capital G. So at super PR guy is me on Twitter. And that was just me just gunning that out. That's not saying I'm a super PR guy. That's saying I represent superheroes a lot of the time. So, and then
But you're also a super PR guy.
Yeah, I can be that way at times. I just don't wear a cape a lot. And on Instagram, I'm at G Miereanu. If you know how to spell it, good luck. Go to my Twitter feed first, then you'll see my name, and then you can figure it out. But really, my Instagram is just like a lot of a adorable 18-year-old silky terrier wearing a bow tie and a really judgmental bearded dragon named Randall. So that's where you can find me. I don't accept friend requests from anybody that isn't a friend, so Facebook is just mine.
It's totally valid.
That's the way it should
So it looks like
Nobody
yeah.
has a question.
So
Nobody tuned in.
it looks
I'm
like
alone.
right now we have about 5 chat questions. So I just want to like let you
Oh.
know the number so you can
Okay.
tailor your response length to getting through them.
Very wise.
Mhm.
Zeki, you want to take us through these little rapid fire maybe?
Yeah, let's see the best we can do with the time we have around with us. In the world of PR, how did y'all feel about when Wendy's and the other PR personalities kicked off with their shenanigans? I have a feeling this is related to a chicken sandwich or two. And then, have you heard anything like that before they started doing it?
Wendy's chicken sandwich shenanigans.
I believe it was just like they started like a Twitter war with like
Oh,
pretty much everybody who had a chicken sandwich.
I hate to say it, but I don't remember it. But I always find it curious when a major, well-known entity starts a fight with its fans or the people who would support their brand, and I I find it kind of really curious when somebody like, oh, here we go, I'm going to ruin my chances forever working with these people. You know, IHOP decides they're going to change their thing to IHOB, an International House of Burgers, because they want to sell more burgers. You know what? Just promote the burgers. Don't take away from my pancakes. I grew up with the International House of Pancakes man. The Pancake Man was part of my youth. But still, I eat at IHOP. I like IHOP. I still call it the International House of Pancakes. And if you have time, I'll do the whole Dennis Miller routine about going to the International House of Pancakes. So, which if you've never heard, just grab the Off-White album and check it out because it's pretty funny. So I stopped at the International House of Pancakes today. Walked in, you could just sense the worldwide flavor. Okay, no, go ahead. He does it much better. Yeah, I just don't deny your own brand. Play with it, but don't put it on the back burner because it doesn't make any sense. Buy into what you're known for.
Like when they killed Mr. Peanut.
That was another silly move.
Like
that,
why?
And know that I just spent some time with those guys. I got to drive. Of all the great PR things, being friends with another PR group, I got to ride in the Peanut Mobile last January, and they gave me the damn microphone that broadcasts out to everyone on the street. We drove around downtown LA, and I got to scare some people like you wouldn't believe. That was phenomenal. Just stupid. That's what makes me happy. The stupid little things.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Next, rapid fire. Has there ever been anyone you've refused to work with? And if you can't answer that, we understand.
You can just say yes or no. You don't have to give us the details.
That's
There's
also
Give us
true.
the details.
There's 2 yeses, and there was a yes that because of an experience. I tend to link up with directors and producers who want to keep using me, and which is a joy, even if they're on small projects. It's good to work with the people you know and trust. As Andrea Romano, the phenomenal voice director, would say, cast a movie like you're wanting to see who you can invite to a party. It's, you want to be with people that you can work with because you're going to be trapped with them for a while. But I worked with this one director that was hell. I mean, hell at every step of a 6-week shoot. And not only did I want to kill him, the actors did. and two of us had to physically hold one of the actors down so she did not poke his eyes out with knitting needles. And 3 months later, the studio came to me and said, "Hey, we're going to put you with so-and-so again for another film." And I said, "I wouldn't go there if you paid me 20 times what you did last time." And they were like, "No, we really need you on this one." I was like, no, I'm never dealing with that bastard again. And the producer who really wanted me on the film brought him in, and we had a sit down and talked it out. And he admitted he was in a bad place and he abused everyone. And we've worked on 3 movies since and gotten along great. So,
Wow.
but
That's a
there
happy
are a
ending.
couple of it worked out well. But yeah, there are a couple of people that I just either got burned by or knew better than to step into that. You do. Publicists tend to have a little Jesus syndrome deep in their heart where they think they can save anyone, and so you may have heard horrible things about somebody, but you know what? It'll be different with me, and it never is.
I can
So,
fix them.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you just
Yikes.
don't do it.
I just can't believe it took 2 people to hold Betty White down. I
Oh, Becky.
She's actually a 6 foot tall actress who I particularly love, and she's always grounded and real and funny, and she had had enough.
hey, that says something if the good ones are like having too much,
Yeah, exactly.
I'm racking my brain for movies with knitting needles, and there's just so many that
There
I
was
don't think
there
I'm
was
going to be
no
able
there
to
was
narrow
no
it down that
she
way.
was just knitting.
Oh,
That
she was
was her
just
way to
knitting.
pass
Right.
the time on the side of the set. Yeah.
Coping mechanism.
Okay. So I don't know who posted this one. It may have
Monkey
been
Man.
Monkey
Monkey Man.
Man.
Wow.
But Gary, I love celebrating my friends' successes, their doings, and the things that they can post. For example, if they stream or have an amazing clip that I want to share from something they did, I love bragging about them to my other friends and getting enjoyment from that kind of networking and seeing the kind of connections they create because of my introduction. Often people refer to me as a hype machine due to how excited I can get about certain things and love to respond, laugh, and react. Um, would that be kind of a start in PR in a way? Or what would you call that? Like, I've heard of a hype man, but I'm unsure the official terminology in PR.
That sounds more like a cheerleader than a hype man. I don't want to discourage you if you're hoping to go down that path, but again, it's not just celebrating and shouting to the heavens. There is a lot of intricate details that go into every publicity campaign, and it all again starts with knowing how to communicate. Like that whole question had probably 2 sentences too long in it. You could have summed it up faster and said it outright, and it would have been clean. So that's it. It's just like you're sitting around at Thanksgiving dinner, and Uncle Bob breaks out a hell of a John Wayne impression, and everybody says, "Uncle Bob, you should be a voice actor. What an amazing." Well, Uncle Bob can do that John Wayne impression for 3 lines from Rio Bravo, but he can't sustain that voice for 4 hours, including hitting high notes, low notes, and maybe a song. It's the same thing over and over again. You want to be a voice actor? First thing you got to learn to be is an actor. You want to be a communication specialist? First thing you got to learn is communications. And I'm not trying to just dissuade you from the task. If you like celebrating your people, that's a good thing. That's essential. You gotta put your ego in the background because, and I revel in the people that I work for and work with because they are the most talented on the planet. And that's a great joy to be around.
Monkey Man says, noted, I talk too much.
So do I.
I'm not sure exactly about this one, but Gary, is this your first time meeting these people in person here? I'm assuming at like a convention of some sort. And then do you get tired or burnt out of all the interviews and all the
it might
think-
attention?
actually be.
It's about us.
It's about us?
It's about the three of us. Yeah.
We're people?
Yeah.
We are.
All right.
It's like the loosest definition.
I have met Katie and known Katie for 10
years?
12 years,
Yeah.
something like that. It's hard for me to see her so no, it's exciting for me to see her so grown up and professional. But in my head, she's still like 14. And it's the first time meeting the two of you, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Yeah.
Hurts, Gary. It's like the 7th time we've met.
I forget things sometimes, so I would not be surprised. What are you talking about?
Again, super PR guy, just saving it left and right here.
Yeah, and the second part of that question is, do you get tired or burnt out of interviews and just essentially being the center of attention?
One, I'm not the center of attention.
I was going to say, I wonder if you feel that way.
I put the spotlight on other people, and I don't do interviews very often. I do, again, if I didn't know Katie and know her for being the wonderful person she is and the highly intelligent, just crackerjack kid all these years, and knowing and loving her father, I wouldn't have said yes.
I'm gonna go hide now.
I don't do interviews very often because I'm not comfortable being the center of attention. I'm happy to tell stories. There's just me blathering, but I don't do a lot of interviews. I do a lot of college talks, like a couple every month to everyone from Indiana to Michigan to Syracuse to Virginia to all the California schools to, anybody that calls and asks, I'm happy to do it. Especially, and I don't charge any kind of, fee of any kind. I just, when I grew up, I had people that took me under their wing that didn't need to. I had some amazing sports writers who were my mentors. I had people in college that, didn't think twice about showing me the wings. I started being a sports writer at age 22 full time. I was in the press box covering the Raiders with some of the greatest writers ever. And, Jim Murray and these guys took me under their wing. It just took me under their wing and guided me along without looking for anything other than to make sure that the kid knew what he was doing. And I'm only too happy to do that for colleges all around. You've got to pay it back. You've got to nurture, because otherwise there's nothing coming from behind you to take up the task. So so I don't get tired of interviews because I don't do them.
Fair and valid.
Honestly, a shame, because your stories are truly fantastic. Very entertaining. Also fun when you don't mention names and we get to speculate in the background.
I'll give you a
also,
name.
We have a comment that says, my takeaway so far is don't sleep. So you're doing good work.
I was saying to my daughter yesterday, I'm 62, but I think I'm really more like 75 when you take up all the extra hours I've been awake for. So it helps, and it's a cost center. You grow your business by being. I can work with people in Thailand, the Philippines, London, France, Japan, because I'm up when they are, and it works out well that way.
What is your secret? Because I need a solid 8 to 10 hours, or I am a monster.
Cranky.
Okay, so that's funny you say that word, because one of my secrets is Monster Zero, sugar-free Red Bull.
Oh yeah.
I discovered this thing called goat fuel. Holy crap!
Goat
is that
fuel?
a ride?
Tell me more, actually.
If you can find it, get it. It's
okay,
good.
I'm gonna write this down.
Yeah.
I'm a junkie for this type of stuff.
I am a horrible partaker of those things. And I know somebody will say, "Oh God, you probably take 10 years off your life," and I'm like, And so,
You know, I heard if you eat peanut butter sandwiches, you can add up to 15 minutes onto your life. So if you just have like Red Bull and PBJs,
there you
and
go.
that balances out, right?
Yeah.
I used to get gout a lot, and they'd put you on prednisone for that. So you'd get, and I used to joke around that, and they'd give you Percocet for a painkiller. So until it went away, and I used to say I'm never better than if I'm on Percocet, prednisone, and give me a Red Bull and a donut. I'm perfect.
That's the wavelength. I get it.
Yeah, yeah,
Move over coffee and a cigarette.
that's right. Yeah, that's the thing though. I don't really drink coffee, so it affects me badly. So yeah. Yeah, don't sleep is a good idea. It gives you a lot more opportunities.
It's true.
Oof.
And then I guess another one we have here is this your first time on Twitch or anything like that? Or do you find yourself on here doing other activities like gaming and hanging out, or are you just like way too busy for that? I have a feeling you're way too busy for that, but
I didn't even realize I was on Twitch.
Excellent.
perfect.
Chad also would like to know when you're coming to play D&D with us.
I used to watch a couple of things on Twitch, and then I'd I'm a horrible video game player. Like, give me a centipede machine, I'll kick your ass. But yeah, a Pong, I'm okay. But yeah, sit me down for I had to do we did a Halo movie must be 15 years ago, and they gave me the whole setup, and I was ready to kill myself because I couldn't kill anybody else on Halo. Yeah, I'm a horrible video game player. You always want to invite me just to feel better about yourself.
Duly noted.
Well, if
Next
you
time
ever
we
want
play
to play,
Halo.
I was gonna say, if you ever want to play some TTRPGs like Dungeons and Dragons, you're more than welcome to come. But if that's not your,
I am curious about playing around at Dungeons and Dragons. I've watched it many a times. I can't wait to see the movie. But
The movie is
you know,
fantastic.
the movie is
my-
very good.
and my dear collection of critters, or that crowd were, made bank off of it and have rolled to fame and fortune, and I'm so proud of them. Yeah, Brian Foster and Ashley Johnson,
Yeah.
Travis and Laura, and Matt
Do you
Mercer.
Do you
Those
know
guys
them
are great.
personally, or do you just
Oh,
know them
yeah.
like, yeah.
No, those are all friends. I've known Ash since here you go, because you kids are younger. I worked on Disney's Recess, and Ash was one of the voices for that show. And yeah, Foster and Matt and Trav and the gang, yeah, we're all friends. I love them
We
dearly.
also sort of know Brian Foster. We were on his Twitch channel of, God, I don't even know, a year ago now? Yeah.
Almost a year ago.
Any time
Almost.
spent with Foster is good time.
Very much agreed.
Yes.
But don't ever
my
leave your
feeling.
phone around when he's around, because you'll come back and you'll have 70 or 80 selfies of him.
God.
So,
Oh, that's funny.
yeah,
Totally tracks.
he's a crafty booger.
Oh. All right. Well, I think that is all the time we have. I know that you've got to get to dinner.
Yes.
And thank you so much for coming, for talking to us. Genuinely would love to have you come on and play D&D with us at some point. We'll talk offline. I also expect to get some names offline, because those stories were just little teases and I must know who we're talking about. But until next time, I'm Katie.
I'm Ben.
And I'm Zeki.
And this has been How the Fuck. Awesome. So that's the end of the recording for the podcast. We're still live at the moment, just so you know, so you don't say anything crazy.
Okay, good.
But to
Wait,
everyone
you're
who is,
live?
yes, we are still live. To everyone who is watching, we do have pretty much immediately after this, we just need to do some technical setup. A one shot, which Brunch is going to be DMing. If you were here last week, it's Letterkenny inspired. Should be, I don't know, we'll probably start in the next 10 to 15 minutes after we get off here. But please stick around. It should be fun. Unfortunately, Gary will not be there, but maybe we'll get Gary back another time. Could be great. Anytime. Anything else before we take that short 15-minute breather to get set up for Letterkenny?
I don't think so.
Oh, Gary, thank you
Cool.
again for joining
Yeah,
us.
Gary, thank you for
Nice.
everything.
My pleasure.
And
Really
we'll
good.
obviously, tag you in the VOD and make sure that when the podcast comes out, you have it. So if you want to share it, you can share it, whatnot.
Cool.
But yeah, if you want to put us no longer live, if you want to unalive us, Ben, feel free.
well.
And we'll be back soon.
All
Take
right,
us to tranquility, Ben.
All right. See y'all in a few minutes.
See y'all in a few minutes.